Hi, it's Dwyer. GamblersAdvisory.com, free site. dwyervip.com, free site. Today is January the 24th, 2018. Let's talk about Andre Ward's recent information in social media that he's been working out. He's 200 pounds now of solid muscle. The rumor mill is grinding, as you can imagine. People are speculating that Andre's about to come back. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, I've said this before here online, and I'm serious about it. I believe we're just a year away from some of these cruiserweights, Murat Gassiev, Alexander Usyk, migrating into the heavyweight division and literally invading the division, wreaking havoc, taking out some current champions. Right? I believe the cruiserweight division is among the very best divisions in boxing. And some of the guys are a little bit big for 200 pounds, right? I just don't see how Usyk will be able to continue to fight at 200 pounds. Well, just to understand, it's not far-fetched that a cruiserweight can jump and take out a heavyweight champion. In fact, one of the reigning cruiserweight champions has already done just that. Maris Briedis actually gained weight and beat Manuel Charr at heavyweight. And Charr, of course, then later would go on to get a share of the heavyweight title. He's one of the heavyweight title holders right now. Folks, he was knocked out cold. I mean out cold. You need to look at the video by Maris Briedis, who is about to fight Alexander Usyk, right? Usyk is heavily favored in that fight. That should tell you the talent level of Alexander Usyk. So let me say this. If I'm Andre Ward, I don't fight at cruiserweight. Why? Because it's simply too dangerous. I'll even go further. It doesn't carry the payday that fighting at heavyweight carries, right? I'm just telling you that other than hardcore boxing fans like you and me, if you're sitting in a bar and the door opens behind you and a guy walks in and someone says, "Who's that?" And if that guy is the cruiserweight champion, many people in the bar are not going to know who the hell he is. They're just not going to know. But I'm telling you that if the door opens behind you and a guy walks in, and it's the heavyweight champion, I'm guessing at least half the bar is going to know who the guy is. Anthony Joshua can pull 70, 80,000 people to a fight. The Joseph Parker-Anthony Joshua fight, according to reports, has already sold more than 70,000 tickets. Try doing that for a cruiserweight title fight. Now, I personally believe that Andre Ward, if he looks at the film, he has the skill set, can beat Manuel Charr today. He'd have to fight a different fight than he fought against Kovalev. In other words, rather than try to come inside on Charr, because believe it or not, that's what Manuel Charr wants you to do. Right? Ward would have to move, make the pocket a mobile pocket, like Maris Briedis did. Literally just look at the Maris Briedis Charr fight and then say, gee, why can't Andre Ward do that? I think he can. Right? So I do think right now, today, Andre Ward has a path to the heavyweight title. I'll even go further. I've long criticized Deontay Wilder here online for what I call a lack of an inside game. Right? Andre Ward, as Kovalev knows well, right, as Edison Miranda knows well, Andre Ward has one of the best inside games in boxing. So if Andre Ward gets inside on Deontay Wilder, right, what's Wilder gonna do? Would Wilder be able to do better than Kovalev? Keep in mind too, Wilder is tall but thin for a heavyweight. There isn't a lot of meat there to absorb the punches on his torso. So I think Andre Ward would have a shot on Wilder. Let's go one step further. Anthony Joshua doesn't move as well as Andre Ward. I know he's the name that has many of you saying, come on, Dwyer, you must be kidding. Right? But I believe, and according to published reports, Andre Ward's trainer, Virgil Hunter, believes that Andre Ward would have a chance against Anthony Joshua, because if Ward gets inside, if he looks for Joshua's uppercut, Joshua does have a devastating uppercut. If he looks for Joshua's uppercut and is able to neutralize that, have an arm bar, right? Have something that catches the uppercut. Make it impossible for Joshua to throw one of his uppercuts. Put your shoulder in his chest. That negates one uppercut, right? The uppercut behind the shoulder, and then focus on the other one. I don't see why Andre Ward wouldn't be able to slay Goliath. Understand too, I've seen this in too many fights. In a fight between a giant and a smaller guy, a David, as Wilt Chamberlain famously put it, no one roots for Goliath. But if Joseph Parker, as I suspect, and I know Parker's a big underdog, I'll be the casino's Huckleberry on this. If Joseph Parker beats Anthony Joshua, I believe that's too dangerous a fight for Andre Ward. What he would find out, in my opinion, is that Joseph Parker is one of the best athletes at heavyweight. One of the best. Right? The problem with fighting an athlete is as you're trying to move in and collapse the pocket, that athlete is moving. Right? Parker also has one of boxing's best jabs. I know he doesn't showcase it, right? He doesn't come out in the first round and do a Larry Holmes and say, hey, here is my best weapon. What are you going to do about it? That's not Parker's mindset, right? Parker's a man of surprises. But I believe that jab would keep Ward outside. I don't believe Ward would be able to outmaneuver Joseph Parker. I think Parker is severely undervalued at heavyweight. Let me also say this too. Were I Andre Ward, I would stay away from Tyson Fury. Fury can fight inside. Fury can fight outside. Andre Ward's ambidextrous. Guess what, folks? Fury's ambidextrous. Right? Fury, talent-wise, would be too much. The question, though, is whether Fury is too rusty, right, to beat Tyson Fury. If Tyson Fury shows up with his A game, I think he beats Andre Ward. Right? In sum, let's keep an eye on Andre Ward. I get the feeling that he's planning to make a big splash, right? I'm just saying, I'd stay away from Cruiser. The water's too deep. That's the beach you go to, where you're about to go in the water and someone says, yeah, you know, there was a shark attack over here 2 weeks ago. And you're thinking, gee, do I want to take that risk when I can go to other beaches that don't have sharks? Right? Let me also say this too. Understand how interesting it would be if Andre Ward were to go to heavy. Right? In my favorites folder here, I have a film of what I consider to be a great fight between two Hall of Famers. Right? One of the best light heavyweight champions in history. Bob Foster right? Taking on heavyweight champion Smoking Joe Frazier. I believe it's Joe's first defense of his title, right? And the problem was Smoking Joe was willing to trade with Foster, who, understand, had one of the biggest punches in boxing history pound for pound. I don't even know who's on Ring's list of best punchers pound for pound, and I already know, Bob Foster's on it, even without looking at it, right? The problem is some heavyweights are going to have the attitude of, hey, let's trade punches. I'll take my chances with your punch. Are you going to take your chances with my heavyweight punch? Bob Foster didn't make it to the third round. Right now, the question is, and it's an open question, whether any of these champions know how to cut off the ring and have the gunslinger mentality that Joe Frazier had, right? Because Joe Frazier goes looking for Bob Foster, right? If there was a fighter who you didn't want to bum rush, who you didn't show up to the division and say, he can't fight inside, let me get inside and rough him up, that was Joe Frazier, right? Joe Frazier's left hook, anyone from Philly knows that's one of the great punches in that city's history, right? Of course, as you can imagine, Bob Foster gets knocked out on a left hook, right? If a heavyweight looks at Andre Ward and says, gee, I don't think his punch is going to carry. I don't think he's a big puncher by heavyweight standards. Hell, I haven't even seen him in a cruiserweight fight. Right? Is that going to lead a big guy like Anthony Joshua to become energized and to not be as cautious as he has been against other heavyweights? Keep in mind, we see these guys and they're a little afraid to open up, but that's against heavyweights. Would the guy have a different attitude if some guy who was a light heavyweight champ, 175, suddenly has gained weight and now wants to fight the heavyweight champ? Also, I know many of you are going to say, oh, Dwyer, a light heavyweight can't beat a heavyweight and stuff like that. What I want you to do is to recognize that Roy Jones, who did not weigh 200 pounds on the night of the fight, Roy Jones won the heavyweight title. What I want you to realize is James Toney, right, a guy who was a champ at middleweight, beat the heavyweight champ, got stripped for drugs, but beat the heavyweight champ, right? Understand, go back in boxing history. An argument can be made that the worst the great Jack Johnson looked in the ring was when he gets decked by Stanley Ketchel. I know that fight has folklore, but no one's going to tell me, looking at that film, that Johnson isn't caught and dropped by the then middleweight champion, right? So let's keep an eye on Andre Ward. He's one of the people to watch this year if he comes out of retirement. Let's remember Ward's record. Folks, he's unbeaten. I'll agree with the critics who say, how could that be? I've seen a tape of the first Kovalev fight. Okay, whatever. Officially, Andre Ward is unbeaten. Let's just say that he did give Kovalev a rematch, right? And let's just say he looked better than Kovalev did in that rematch. Right? Rematch, okay, not Tony Weeks' best night, but let's just say you didn't leave that rematch thinking to yourself, Kovalev looked better than Ward. Right? So Andre, unbeaten, multi-divisional champion. Let's remember, too, before he ever meets Kovalev, he wins the light heavyweight title earlier on against Chad Dawson. At the time, one of boxing's better fighters. Right? To sum up, if I'm Andre Ward, I know he's saying, hey, I weigh 200, whatever. I stay away from the 200-pound weight class, right? Again, that's the shark-infested beach, right? What's the point? If I'm going to go surfing, it's not going to be with the sharks, right? I would jump to heavy. And let me say this too. You jump to heavy, right? You jump to heavy, and if it doesn't work out, as long as you acquit yourself well, like middleweight Ray Robinson did when he jumped to light heavy, right, against Joey Maxim, a fight he loses, right? If you acquit yourself well, that could actually enhance your legacy, right? People look back at Sugar Ray Robinson and they say, wow, you know, this guy was the best pound for pound, and he proved it against Joey Maxim, right? He's leading in the fight before heat exhaustion takes him out, right? If Andre Ward can just have moments, could you imagine if Andre Ward fights Deontay Wilder, hits Wilder, Wilder doubles over, hits the canvas? Even if Wilder then gets off the canvas and finishes Ward, right, hits him with the long right hand, as he's done many others, right? You know, you would say, wow, that's the best challenge I've seen to Wilder, who himself is unbeaten, right? Who himself is an Olympic medalist, right? That's the best challenge to Wilder. And Andre Ward, a guy from outside the division, was the person who mounted that challenge, right? So to me, Ward at this stage is like Mikey Garcia. He's playing with house money. His legacy should comfortably put him in the Hall of Fame. So now all that's left is to shine a little bit more gloss on it, to challenge himself, to see how far he can take it if he comes back. I hope he does. I hope he challenges a heavyweight champion. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I know there is an Anthony Joshua contingent out there, and I know that size does matter, and that there's a group out there who just believe that Roy Jones fought John Ruiz, who wasn't a poster boy for a great heavyweight champion, right? And I know there's a group of you who are going to say Roy Jones at the time was a freak athlete. Let's remember, Jones is unbeaten when he wins the title, right? And that Jones's hand speed carried the day. And I understand there's going to be an argument that Andre Ward doesn't have the hand speed that Roy Jones did at the time, right? Please, let's remember Roy Jones in his prime. I don't want to hear people talking about the Roy Jones who fought Enzo Maccarinelli. Come on, right? Roy Jones today is a shadow of himself, right? Prime Roy Jones was a great fighter. And people are going to say that without a decided hand speed advantage, some physical gift that would give Andre Ward an edge. How is Ward going to compete at heavyweight? My response is Ward has the technical advantage. We're in an era of flat-footed sluggers with specialized punches, right? If Ward gets inside on Wilder, I think he wins that fight. If Ward stays outside and creates a mobile pocket on Char, I think he wins that fight. Wilder and Char have belts, right? If Joshua gets by Parker, right? Maybe Joshua and Tyson Fury remove a big threat for Andre by fighting each other, right? While I don't think Ward ever beats Fury, if Fury is back and is still Tyson Fury, right? I do think Ward has a shot on Anthony Joshua because Joshua is tentative. I don't think deep in the pocket Joshua knows where he is as much as Andre Ward would, right? But I agree. Ward would be dealing with nuclear firepower, certainly nuclear punching power, against Joshua for 12 rounds. Let me say this too. Anthony Joshua fights have an ebb and flow, don't they? Right? Joshua gets a second wind against Vladimir Klitschko. Understand, before then he's vulnerable, right? Just like Andre Ward took out Kovalev before Kovalev got a second wind. And keep in mind, you know, you tire much faster when some guy's hitting you in the body. Right? Is it possible, just consider the possibility, that Andre Ward, a vet who's been in the game a long time, might structure his fight against Joshua. So when Joshua starts to tire, Andre knows not to allow him to clinch and then steps on the gas in a way that Vladimir Klitschko did not. Right? I still maintain that the Joshua Klitschko fight's more about Klitschko not closing the deal, in part because I believe Klitschko and his brother Vitaly, who was advising him, thought that muscle-bound Joshua wouldn't be able to get a second win. So I believe Klitschko thought the fight was over. Drops Joshua, Joshua gets up, there's no urgency. The guy's falling apart in round 6. He'll fall apart even more in rounds 8, 9, and 10. Instead, the young lion got a second wind. Would Andre Ward allow him to? I think that's a big question. Anyway, let me hear from you. Also, in terms of hand speed, are you certain that when it comes to throwing combinations and stuff like that, Joshua would have faster hands and shorter punches than Andre Ward? Right? I'm not. Anyway, let me hear from you. I look forward to your comments. Thanks for stopping by.